Hello, I think. How are you? Gonna get to the meditation now in 1 sec. I just have to check that I am in the right position. Yes, I am. Brilliant. How are you? Good? I hope you're good. It's fine if you're not. Not every day goes well, I understand. I hope you're well though. Right, we're going to do some meditation. This isn't a class, it's just a chance to meditate together. So if you're if you're used to meditating, brilliant. Can you hang on for a minute though while I explain what I do, just for the benefit of people who are new to meditation. The way it kind of works is Mondays I explain what I do, then Wednesday and Friday we just meditate. So today's the day for explanations. And these meditations are part of the further emergence work I do, so if you're interested in that, I'll explain what further emergence is at the end. Someone saying greetings from New York. Hello, greetings from New York. And someone else saying that they're doing good today. That's brilliant. Yeah, I'll explain about further emergence at the end. Now, there's lots of different types of meditation. This is what I do. For me, it starts with why I would meditate. I'm trying to connect to a part of me that I connect to every night when I sleep. Not the dreaming bit, the bit after dreaming. So I'm sort of dreaming and then I drop out the bottom dreaming into deep dreamless sleep, where I have no thoughts, no memories, no feelings, no emotions. I've got no body really, got no bed, no bedroom, nothing. I don't even have me. I sort of cease to exist, certainly in the way that I normally register my existence. Which, that all sounds awful, doesn't it? It sounds like death. Yet, I love going to sleep. And when I wake up, I feel refreshed. So some part of me knows that wherever I go to is good. And that's where I want to go to when I sleep. I just want to do it consciously. So straight away, if you're new to meditation, don't try this lying down, because chances are you'll fall asleep. And if you don't fall asleep, you'll battle sleep. Both of which are kind of contrary to what you're trying to do. So sit up. You don't have to sit in a lotus position or anything like that. I'm just sitting in a chair. If you're sitting in a chair, make sure it's not a big, comfy armchair that you're going to be into the whole sleep thing again. So as I said, there's no thoughts in this place. It's not somewhere my mind can get to. It's almost like I go into this, when I meditate, it's like I go into this room and my mind has to wait outside the door. So I have to figure out a way of working with my mind so that my mind is on board for meditation. Now, having your mind on board for meditation is important, but it's not really a big deal if you're just starting out. It only becomes something that you have to work on if you're practicing, if you have a practice of meditation where you meditate regularly. Because if this is the first time you've ever meditated, it's going to be new and interesting. So your mind will be all totally into it, because minds like new and interesting things. If it's the 30th time you've meditated, your mind knows the drill, and that's when you might run into problems. So if you have problems with that, if you want to ask in the comments, I'll answer it at the other end. But for now, I'll just say it's important to have your mind on board. So mind on board, good. Next thing, stop thinking. Now, how I work with my mind is I just make an arrangement with it where I say, could you just stop thinking or not think for the next 15 minutes because I want to meditate. And my mind at this stage is, as I say, on board, so it goes, yeah, okay, fine, I'll do that. So my mind is on board, great. Now, stopping thinking is actually easier than you would think. It's easy enough to stop, meaning regardless of what I'm thinking about, which would be the content of my thought, the structure of my thought is always the same. It's always pictures and sound. So if I turn off the pictures and I turn off the sound, that's it, I'm not thinking. And as soon as I do that, I'm into the practice of meditation. Now, the practice of meditation runs parallel with the intention of my meditation. So my intention is, as I said at the beginning, to go to this deep, mysterious place, this calm, still, Zen-like, peaceful, all the words that are used to describe meditation, to go to that place. The practice of meditation runs right alongside it, and it starts as soon as I stop thinking. And it generally kind of goes, I turn off the pictures, I turn off the sound, so I bring myself to not thinking. Then some time will pass and I'll discover that I'm thinking again. I go, oh, thinking again. Turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking. Then some time will pass and I'll discover I'm thinking again. I go, oh, thinking again. Turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking, and so on. It's pretty simple. Every time I discover I'm thinking, I just bring myself back to not thinking. That's the practice of meditation. And it's important to know that thinking can happen. Because it's very easy to get the misconception that in order to meditate correctly, you can't be thinking at all. And that's not the case in my experience. In my experience, these two things go together, the intention and the practice. They sort of do a little dance. You know, sometimes you're very still and deep and peaceful, and then other times you're discovering that you're thinking. And both are powerful. They're both powerful, but in a different way. It's very obviously powerful when you're in this deep, still place. Your nervous system starts to settle. Everything's beautiful. It's not so obvious. The power is not so obvious when you're discovering that you're thinking. But it is powerful, but it's a little bit more subtle. Because what will happen is, if you're like me, the sort of things that you'll be thinking of are all sort of to do with you. So I will be thinking, what am I going to do about that thing? Why did I say that thing? Why did that person say that thing to me? Why did that person do that thing? And so on. Now, if I'm having one of those thoughts and I'm in the middle of meditation, and I go, oh, thinking again, turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking. Indirectly, what I'm demonstrating to myself is, or what I'm saying and demonstrating is, you know that thought that you were just having, the one that you thought was you and that you were it? Well, you just made that thought disappear. You just made it go poof, gone. So you are obviously not that thought. In fact, you're not any of your thoughts. You're something else. Now that's very powerful. And then the fact that you do that repeatedly, that's very powerful as well. So the main thing to get is that thinking about your meditation is just more thinking. You know, so don't add to your thinking by thinking that you're not doing well or that you're not doing it great, because there's no right or wrong way, or wrong or right number of times that you have to bring yourself back from thinking, because it changes every day and it changes in the day. Meaning you could meditate in the morning and you might only have to bring yourself back from thinking, you know, not that many times, and then you might meditate in the afternoon of the same day and you might have to bring yourself back loads of times. Now, one is not better than the other. Okay. So the golden rule, if there was a golden rule, is every time you discover that you're thinking, bring yourself back to not thinking. If you do that, you're doing great. Now, as I'm doing all that thinking and not thinking business, I'm also letting go of any tension in my body. So I'm sort of scanning my body from my head down to my feet and back up again, very slowly, very gently. Anywhere I find tension, I'm letting it go. And I'm using my out-breath to let it go, because it's natural to just breathe it away. But it's also a good way of bringing a bit more consciousness to my breath, because it's quite easy during meditation to hold your breath. I know that sounds funny, but it's true. It's quite easy to hold your breath or stop breathing altogether. So using the out-breath to let go of tension is just a nice way of not doing that. Also, as I'm scanning my body, I'm paying particular attention to any structures that go across my body, any transverse areas of my body, because mostly my body runs longitudinally, you know, head to toe. But anywhere that it goes across has a tendency to pick up tension. I think of it a bit like a log going across a stream. You know, it picks up all the twigs and the branches and anything that's coming down the stream, except in my body, it's tension. So I'm spending a little bit more time on my eyes, for example, my jaw, my tongue, my base of my neck. These are all transverse sides. My shoulder girdle, all my joints are transverse as well. So my shoulder, elbow, wrist, fingers, my heart area, my respiratory diaphragm, all my intestines, my pelvic floor, my hips, my knees, my ankles, and my toes. Having a nice quiet room is very helpful when you're starting out meditation, because one of the things that triggers thoughts is sound. And of course, as soon as you close your eyes, your hearing amplifies. So the quieter the room, the less disturbance you have, the best chance you'll be giving your mind to not think about things. And then the other thing I do to help my mind not think about things is I set a timer for how long I'm going to meditate for. Now I'm going to set mine for 15 minutes, but if you're just starting out, I'd encourage you to set yours for 5 minutes and then repeat that 3 times. Because 15 minutes is a long time if you're not used to it. Someone is saying hi. Hi. Okay, so I'm going to set the timer now. Okay, off we go then into the mystery. Alright, that's time. So as I said at the beginning, these meditations are part of the further emergence work I do. Further emergence is to do with growth, inner growth really, growth in consciousness, growth in awareness. You could call it spiritual growth, that kind of growth. Because your body pretty much stops growing when you become an adult, but you keep growing on the inside. That doesn't stop. That continues on for your whole life. And just like when you were a kid, you might have gone through periods of accelerated growth in your body. You know, they're called growth spurts. You go through growth spurts on the inside as well, and they too continue on for your whole life. The big difference is between a growth spurt when you're going through it as a kid and a growth spurt when you're an inner growth spurt when you're 45 or 65 or it's like when you were a kid and you went to your parents and you were going through a growth spurt and you said, I've got terrible pains in my shins or legs or wherever you're having the growing pains. Your parents wouldn't have rushed you to hospital. They wouldn't have even brought you to the doctor. They would have said, oh, that's terrible, but they're just growing pains. It's natural. They'll pass. It's much harder to know that it's natural and it'll pass when you're going through an inner growth spurt. There's a much bigger space to feel like there's something wrong with you, that you're broken, that's not natural. So the overarching focus of further emergence is to support growth, inner growth, and then particularly when you're going through an inner growth spurt. And we do that in a few different ways. And when I say we, there is a growing kind of further emergence community, but a lot of the things I'm doing them. So these meditations, for example, are one of the things that I'm doing. So the meditations are how do they help? Is really they help you become familiar with your inner landscape. Meditation is help because I've been through lots of inner growth spurts myself, so I'm very used to it. And I know that meditation is one of the most helpful things for that. Not specifically when you're going through it, because sometimes it can be too much. But as a way of becoming familiar with your inner landscape, meditation is unparalleled, I think. So the more familiar you are with your inner landscape, the easier it is to go through inner growth spurts. So that's what the meditations are for. Then there's retreats. We do a retreat every 2 weeks. And they're a chance to retreat from your life, step back from it a little bit, and we do more in-depth kind of meditation. There's 3 longish meditations that we do, and they generally run for about 4 hours, so kind of half a day. And next one's next Saturday, so it starts at 6 o'clock Irish time, 6 p.m. Irish time, and they're also a good way of seeing other people and seeing, oh, I'm not on my own, because there's questions and answers and sharing and that kind of thing goes on as well. And seeing that there are other people going through the same thing can be very helpful just in itself, because it's quite easy when you're going through a particularly intense growth spurt, inner growth spurt, to feel like nobody understands you and nobody gets you and nobody really knows what you're talking about. So seeing other people can really help. Then I also work with people one-to-one in different ways, and that's because inner growth spurts can have very specific kind of ways of manifesting. So getting very specific feedback is very helpful. I can work with the person's system as well behind the scenes. I'm a craniosacral therapist. I have been for many years, so I can use those kind of skills to help with that as well. So yeah, they vary. What's needed. So that's the one-to-one work. There's a podcast as well, there's a YouTube channel, they're all to help. And then I've written 4 books. So if you're still with me, if you watched all the way to the end, maybe some part of you is going, there's something to this. I'd encourage you to let that part of you tell you what the next thing to do is for you. So that might be just, let's come to some more of these meditations, they seem pretty good, or those retreats sound interesting. Maybe I'll go to the YouTube channel, maybe I'll listen to the podcast, read the books, get in touch for some one-to-one work, or none. You might be going, no, this is